This is Fowl Players Radio, your podcast for arts, entertainment, and pop culture. Welcome. My name is Michael Spedden, your host. Every episode features fun, fascinating stories about people in the performing arts, actors, authors, dancers, writers, musicians, athletes, you name it. Folks who are center stage, backstage, on camera, or behind the scenes. Sit back and listen. Let's have some fun. Fowl Players Radio is a proud production of the Fowl Players Group and the official podcast of the Fowl Players of Perryville.
Hi, this is Bud Becker, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hello, this is John Piet,
Kevin Schmidt,
and Jerry Bozick.
And we're August, a little band from Virginia. You can hear our story, other stories from the legendary Baltimore, D.C. music scene, and much, much more with Michael Spedden on Fowl Players Radio. You can find it at www.fowlplayersradio.com, on YouTube, and wherever you find podcasts online. Keep rocking.
This is A.D. Adams, and you are tuned in to Fowl Players Radio with your host, Michael Spedden.
Yeah, hi, this is David Simmons from DC Star, and I am just encouraging all of you to tune in to Michael Spedden's show on Fowl Players Radio and love the rock and roll of the past and the art of the future.
Hi, this is Kim of Kim's Crypt, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Folks, welcome back to another episode of Fowl Players Radio. My name is Michael Spedden. Today we welcome back Jay David to discuss his book, Don't Blame the Music, The Untold Story of Dr. Hook. It covers his life and career from the time he was a boy performing in drum and bugle corps, through his U.S. Navy service, and through his time performing in New York City nightclubs, and his career with Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. There are lots of great rock and roll stories in this book, folks. Trust me. I mean, damn. But there is also a lot of stories that are a real reality check as to how sinister the music business can be if you aren't careful. I highly recommend this book, and it's available on Amazon.com. A direct link to where you can get the book is available right down in the show notes. The Fowl Players of Perryville will be returning to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad on May 6th. The show will be The Answer Is Murder, and we will also be returning to Fifth Company Brewing in Perryville, Maryland on May 12th. The show will be Foul Play. Links to ticket sales can be found on our calendar at www.fowlplayersofperryville.com or by following the links in the show notes. Thank you for joining our episode today. Please continue to follow us on fowlplayersradio.com, on YouTube at Fowl Players Radio, and in all of these platforms. Remember to hit the subscribe and like buttons, and please give us an honest review. We'll be right back after these words with Jay David. Hey, folks, the Chorus of the Chesapeake is having their second annual Bull and Shrimp Roast. To benefit the chorus, it's going to be on Sunday, May 21st, 2023, from 1 to 5 p.m. at Superior Catering Hall, 1010 South Oldham Street in Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Tickets are $50 each. There will be a cash bar available. No BYOB or coolers will be allowed in. For more information and tickets, contact Bob Mattis at 410-435-1947. We hope to see you there.
Hi, everybody. Dwight Weems from Gaz the Fun Band, and you're watching and listening to Fowl Players Radio.
This is Kathy Ladman, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio, the place where you get all of your good news information. Not really, but it's just a great show.
Hey, Mary Jo Peel here, and you are listening to Fowl Players Radio.
And folks, welcome back to another episode of Fowl Players Radio. And tonight for Season 10, Episode 5, we bring back Jay David. Jay joined us a couple of years ago when he released his album. One of the songs on that album was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed on the cover of the AARP and a whole bunch of other ones. Well done on that, Jay. And Jay is coming back to promote his book. It's right here. Don't Blame the Music, The Untold Story of Dr. Hook by Jay David, the original drummer. So, Jay, it's great to see you, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's great back to be here with you again, man.
Well, great. You know, you were one of my most popular guests, by the way. I was looking at all the downloads and everything, and you know, you're right up, you're way up at the top, and so I was really I thank you for that, actually bringing people along to listen to my show.
Absolutely, Michael. Sure, of course. Yeah,
yep. Yeah. So you started off, you were, and reading through your book here, it is a biography, telling a lot of stories about playing in clubs, and I can identify because I did it for years myself. I'm a
Uh-huh.
bass player. I think I may have told you that.
Uh-huh.
And boy, oh boy, I tell you, you are, you've got some major stories here. But before we get into that, you started off playing the drums and getting into music at a young age. Tell
Yeah.
us a bit about that.
Okay. Well, uh, my sister marched with a drum corps. Now, I was born in Bayonne, New Jersey, a town of
Uh-huh.
around 60,000 or so.
Mhm.
And we had a drum corps called St. Vincent's Cadets. And St. Vincent's Cadets were a junior corps, meaning 12 years old to 20 years old. And then you age out at 20. So that's the limit. And so those ages were marched. And so I decided, because my sister was marching in the color guard and the Corps just won the national championship of the whole United States. And I thought to myself, my little 7-year-old brain said, wow, the whole United States, that's something from here. Wow. So I went to a rehearsal on a Saturday morning, and we did some marching, which I had a great time doing. And then they said, Jay, what instrument would you like to play? I said, well, how about a soprano horn, which plays the melody the highest, and the highest horn in the register. And so they gave me a soprano, and they said, now go home. We know you don't know how to play anything, but just see if you can get some noise out of that thing, and come back next Saturday and we'll work on it. I said, okay. So I took the soprano home with me, and I took it out, and I was blown on the thing, but it hurt like mad. It really hurt. And I put it back in the case. I said, if that's what it takes, I'm not having anything to do with it. So I put it back in, left it there, and about 6 weeks goes by, and I never went back. And a kid from the drum corps came to collect the corps bugle, and he said, he looked in the case, he said, okay, good, there's the bugle. Now, where's the mouthpiece? And I said, mouthpiece? Mouthpiece. I didn't get a mouthpiece. No wonder it hurt. And that was my first experience with the drum corps. I later joined and won a national championship myself, and went on to win great contests. And but so my folks used to take me around to clubs with them. They would always have a band playing in these clubs, naturally, with the bass players and drummers and guitar players and horn players, etc. And so I asked if I could sit in, never having really played the drums before, and I did. They let me sit in, and I just played away. I just seemed to have an affinity for it. So they started bringing me around to all the clubs. I started sitting in with all the bands, and then I became known for that. And I guess the drummers didn't mind. Yeah, let the kids sit in. I'm going to have another drink.
Yeah.
Sure, take a solo, son. So I that's what I did, and my folks managed to get me a set of drums, an old Leedy set, and wooden. They were all wood, and so I had them set up in my bedroom, and I would play them. And what I liked to play along with was Count Basie. That's had my heart. Sonny Payne. And so but I joined a gang, and now I'm living in Jersey City, and I joined this gang, and what we did was, there was about 7 or 8 of us, and what we did, now I'm about 11 now, and we lived very close to the Statue of Liberty, and right behind the Statue of Liberty was all of a railroad hub, because during World War II, all of the products and goods, etc., would go by train down to the Hudson River, which is where these tracks were, and then boats would come and they'd ship the stuff off to war, wherever it was going. So now this is the 50s, and this is and mostly it's still being used for railroads, but it's starting to decline. It's none of it's there now, but it's now they have nothing but fancy condominiums overlooking the skyline of New York. You know, $3,500 a month. You know, but then it was it was crabgrass and bamboo and these railroad tracks, and we would get down there on a Friday night, and we'd break the seals of refrigerator cars. Pretty easy to do, and we'd steal food out of them, like frozen turkeys, and run like hell with your frozen turkey, which is what I did. And we had a guy named Ike Jones, and Ike Jones was supposed to play Chicky. Now, Chicky back east means if you see a cop, you yell "Chicky" as loud as you can. We'll hear that. We'll get out of there. So apparently he saw the police and he got too afraid to yell anything. So there we were with no Chicky, and we're stealing the stuff. And next thing I know, I'm walking along the tracks with my turkey, my butterball, and I hear ping, ping, bang, ping, and all these, and they're bullets that are hitting the rocks off of the tracks. So I start running, and they start running, and I'm running with my turkey. I threw the damn thing away. You know what I mean? I'm running with the turkey. You know, so I threw it away, and I ran right home to my drums, and I stayed there ever since. And that really was my life of crime. It ended that night. Until years later, when I got involved with drugs, but that's a whole other story. You know,
Right.
You know, there's two. By the way, there's 2 volumes. I'm starting to write volume 2, which is volume 1 is from my youth to when I left Dr. Hook.
Right.
And that's where volume 1 ends. Volume 2 begins what it was like after Dr. Hook, and when I went and played drums for 5 years with David Crosby and Sam Shepard, the actor, Robin Williams. I have a long history in the industry. And I finally started acting when I came down here. I got sober and came down to LA, and so I got hired to act on this TV show called Glee, and it was Tim Conway, Billy D. Williams, June Squibb, and myself that were hired to play. We all got co-star roles. Now, I thought that was pretty good because I never acted before in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What a great way to start. And we played 4 retired musicians in a home for musicians. And so, it's kind of good. I liked it. And but anyway, that's what happened with my life of crime.
Yeah, I was. I wanted to, if I could just add maybe just interject one of my stories too.
Sure.
When I was reading the book and I read that, my great grandfather was a railroad policeman in Craigsville, Virginia. Back in the 1910s.
Wow.
And he could pretty much back up your story because they would shoot first and ask questions later.
Yeah, they were known as railroad bulls. That's yeah, indeed. Oh boy, sure. I wouldn't like to have been caught by him.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I bet. I was caught by a cop one other time. I was in a gang war and in Jersey City he caught me and he said he got me by the collar and he said, "All right, I'm running you in." I said, "No, you're not. Come on, I'm 12. I didn't do anything. I just ran." He said, "Oh, okay," and he let me go. So, I've had it pretty easy. My life, it's been pretty easy. Yeah. So, what else can I tell you?
Well, after this time, you got into playing music, drumming. You were in your high school band, and your marching experience. You went and served in the U.S. Navy, where the marching experience really served you well.
Yeah, it did. It did. I got some great things going for me, and I was in the Navy about 20 minutes, and all of a sudden, what happened was we went to boot camp, and Roy Pierce. I'll never forget his name. He looked like he was 100 years old, and he was probably about 30. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
17. I don't know anything. And excuse me. And he said there was a company of 85 of us. We just got there. He said, all right, who here has marching experience? So I raised my hand. He said, okay, you're in charge of the company. So I said, great. What's that mean? And he said, well, that means you teach them how to march, and you march them to Chow Hall, and you teach them, you get them in shape, basically. And you're the RCPO. I said, oh, that's wonderful. What's an RCPO? He said, it's a recruit chief petty officer. So that's what I did. So like I said, I've been in the Navy about 20 minutes or a half hour at the most. And all of a sudden I got my own office, my own master at arms, and I'm in charge of 85 guys or 84 guys. So,
wow.
Yeah. And then I decided to become a hospital corpsman. And the day I got out of boot camp, I had 2 weeks. I was able to go home. But then I came back and I went to a hospital corps school. And as soon as I reported into those guys, I said, David, 531-2036, reporting is ordered, sir. He said, don't call me sir. I'm an enlisted man. I'm a petty officer. You don't do that. I said, okay, sir. Oop. You know, so he said, all right, David, wait here. I said, yes, sir. Don't call me sir. I remembered, you know, so it's like that. I couldn't help but joke. And so about 10 minutes later, a Jeep pulled up with 2 shore patrolmen. Those are Navy cops. They pulled up and they said, David, 531-2036. I said, yes, sir. He said, don't call me sir. So in I get onto the Jeep, and they drive me all the way down to the 9th Naval District Hospital, which was just built. And, I was in during the John F. Kennedy years, 1960 to 63.
Mm-hmm.
And they drove me to the hospital and they said, follow us. And I was thinking, what the hell did I do? I don't know anything. I don't know anybody. What did I do? You know? So they marched me to the elevator on up to the 9th floor and to the admiral's office, the admiral of the whole 9th Naval District. Now I'm a seaman apprentice about to go to school. I just turned 18. So, I still didn't know anything. I may not even still know anything today. But the thing about it is they bring me into the office, and the admiral gets up and he says, and he looked like Raymond Massey used to be an actor, and he was so had this bearing that was so, you thought you were talking to God, as did this admiral in his dress whites with all the gold. And he says, David, great to see you. Sit down, sir. Would you like a cup of coffee? And I said, yes, sir. And so I'm thinking to myself, what the hell could I have done? And why is an admiral offering me a cup of coffee? I don't, and he says, look, we know that you have a lot of drum and bugle corps experience, and we're starting a hospital drum and bugle corps. And we've been waiting for you to get here because we want you to be our drum major. And in return for that, you won't have to pull any other duty, because in the Navy, you pull port and starboard. That's every other day, 4 hours, guarding Lake Michigan from the Polish people. I don't know what the hell it was.
Right.
If the Polish people attack, I got you covered. All right. So I didn't have to pull any duty, and they had a drum instructor, they had a bugle instructor, and I wrote out a little routine for us to march, and we played at Loyola of Chicago basketball games, and so that was cool. I thought. So then, when I graduated from corps school, they said, "Okay, where would you like to be stationed?" And I thought, well, they didn't ask anybody else. They had a list of where everybody's supposed to be stationed. And 98% of my class went to Guantanamo Bay, because it was almost the start of the Cuban crisis. And,
right.
And they asked me where I wanted to go. And I could have said Rota, Spain. I could have said Hawaii. I said New York City, because that's where I'm from. I wanted to play drums on the weekends, you know? So,
sure.
So that's what they gave me. They gave me my choice. And that was the last time they ever gave me my choice, though. You know, I got in some trouble in the Navy. I went and I was working from 11 at night until 7 in the morning, and I decided to take myself to Jones Beach, which didn't have any trees, but I didn't know it at the time. But I thought I would go to the beach and spend a nice, relaxing day on the ocean. And so I injected a watermelon with vodka. I don't know how many cc's I put in there, but must have been a bunch. So out I go, me and my friggin' watermelon, to the beach. And it's around 8 o'clock now, and I decided to eat my watermelon. So I ate the whole damn watermelon and woke up 5 that night with 2nd-degree sunburn poisoning. I didn't know. And so they court-martialed me for destroying government property, and that was me, you know. So, oh man, you know, it's crazy stuff. But the Navy treated me really well. They really did. They treated me well. The only thing they never told me was that I could collect unemployment insurance when I got discharged. I didn't know I could collect it, and I was living on $15 a week. I was playing on Saturday night, you know, with this guy in Hoboken, and I didn't know I could collect. But anyway, I'm not mad at them.
Right. You got into playing in clubs in New York, actually prior to being discharged from the service. And you had some really great stories there. I, myself played New York a bunch of times in the early 90s. We used to do CBGBs. My band did.
Yeah.
In those days.
Punk band. You played punk, didn't you? I could tell.
It was kind of a sort of like what they called it, alternative at the time. Punk really wasn't the thing, but alternative. But yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And every story about that place is true.
Yeah. Well, in my era, I played on West 45th Street.
Yes.
In Times Square.
Right.
And a club called the Wagon Wheel, which was owned by the mafia. And I used to play. It was great. The musicians I played with were great, and I was the kid. And I was, I don't know, 21, I think, at that time. And these guys were great, 7-piece horn band. And we had a residency there. So we played, I think it was like 6 nights a week, from 9 at night till 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the New York, you know that from playing in New York, 4 in the morning. And so my friend Hank and I the sax player, used to go out in front of the club and grab a container of coffee and grab a cigarette and watch what's going on in the street, because there was all sorts of stuff going on in Times Square in those days.
Oh yeah.
All stuff. We had athletes coming in. Joe Pepitone, the first baseman of the Yankees. We had Emil Griffith. We had all sorts of folks. Emil Griffith was the guy that he was gay, and nobody knew it then, because in the mid 60s, if your idol was a boxer and you let out that he was a homosexual, that they would have drawn and quartered him. You know, So he was in a closet, but he used to go to these gay clubs. And what happened after I knew him was he was fighting a guy named Benny Kid Perret. And Perret was from Cuba, and Emil was from the Virgin Islands. And those two don't get along. Mm-hmm. Now, at the weigh-in, Perret knew about what Emil was. He knew he was gay. So as Emil is standing on the scale in his underwear, getting weighed for the fight, Perret's behind him trying to hump him and calling him Marty Cone, and all his people were laughing their ass off. Well, Griffith got really mad. And that night at the fight, he hit him so many times that Perret went against the ropes, and he hit him. He must have hit him 15 times in the head. Perret slumped down. They took him out in a stretcher, and a couple of days went by, and he died. So I mean, we're talking some heavy duty stuff, man. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? But this guy was amazing. He was like a cat the way he moved. It really was. He passed away not too long ago. And but anyway, Hank and I are smoking our cigarettes and drinking our coffee. And one Sunday night, it's really quiet on the street on a Sunday night, basically. And all of a sudden, about 100 teeny boppers, young teenage girls, came running past us, you know, chattering and laughing and, you know, giggly and all that stuff that kids do. And Hank and I looked at each other and we said, what the hell's going on here? Well, after the kids were standing, we were 4 doors down from the Peppermint Lounge, which was the Peppermint Twist, big hit for Joey D and the Starlighters, #1 record. Well, they're standing in front of the Peppermint Lounge, and then up pulls about 5 photographers, you know, and all of a sudden a limo pulls up to the street and out jumps the Beatles. And they run into the Peppermint Lounge. So I look at Hank, he looks at me, we said, what the hell was that? I said, you know those guys, She Loves You, yeah. Oh, he said, oh man, I hate that shit, you know. So we went back to do our, you know, half hour on, half hour off all night. So we went back and did our next set. We came back out and nobody was there. Nobody there, not nobody, just a limo in the street. Same thing happened again. The girls ran up again, the photographers and the Beatles ran out of the club into the limo. Limo goes off into the night. And so we said, what was that? I don't know. Well, next morning in the Daily News was Beatles take Manhattan by storm. Fans crying for the Beatles, and it was all a setup. It was just they manipulated the media, and I had never seen any of that before. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I never believed quite anything I read in the newspaper anymore. Once I saw that, it was like, damn, holy. And 1 week after that, it happened again, only this time it was the Rolling Stones. The same trip. They did exactly what the Beatles did. So, you know, I've had experiences like that. They're all in the book.
Right. It makes me wonder if they were planted like that for the Ed Sullivan Show, too.
Well, that was the night they played the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh, it was. Okay. That was the exact night. Okay.
Yeah, it was, because I looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah. It's well, here's the backstory to that. When Joey D and the Starlighters had the Peppermint Twist, the Beatles weren't heard of yet. They were known somewhat in England or in Germany, but they weren't known over here at all. So Joey D's playing over at the Star Club in Hamburg, and the opening act for Joey D was the Beatles. So they saw Joey D and they saw the people go crazy for Joey D, and they wanted to see where he played. And that's why they came to the Peppermint Lounge. You know? So, yeah.
Right. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you had been, you know, playing in clubs and things like that. And a lot of people kind of took a liking to your playing. And I heard that somebody asked you to put together an ensemble of people to play at a wedding.
Yes.
Could you tell that story?
I'd relate it. I'll relate it. Yeah, this Italian guy, as they're mostly Italians, and that hung out at the wagon wheel, said, I like the way you play. My daughter's getting married next June, this being like December. My daughter's getting married next June. I want you to play at her reception. You want to do that? Now, who's going to say, you know, no to this guy that's obviously a mafia guy? Yeah, no. The next day I know I'd be hanging from a truck someplace, you know. So, sure, I'd be happy to. So I was a nice, clean-cut young fella in December of '65, and short hair. I didn't, you know, I was very nice fella. And wait a minute, I got a phone call. I gotta get rid of him. Recording stop. Oh, can you hear me again? Okay, thanks. So meanwhile, between December and June of 66, I dropped acid about 40, 50 times. I don't know. And now my hair's down to my shoulders, and I got a beard. I got a beard going, but I'm the leader of the band. So I show up at the hall where the reception is going to be early to get my drums set up. Now I dropped a tab of acid on my way, and I had some more with me because you never know when you're going to really need some, right? So I get to the club early, and I walk in the door, and I'm expecting to continue walking to the hall where the actual reception would be, but the stage was right to the right of the front door. And I thought, this is weird, but okay. And Mater D says, yeah, set up your drums here. Okay. So after I set my drums up, I took a look in the back, and it was ice sculptures and 2 bars. And it really, the stage really should have been back there. I have no idea why they had it where they had it, because it must have been about 20 yards away from where the reception area was going to be. But I set up my drums, and in comes the other 3 guys that I hired because I'm the leader and I'm supposed to be responsible, you understand? So Jimmy, Tommy, and Wally. And Jimmy was the bass player, Tommy was the guitar player, and Wally was the keyboard player. Long Island University. They were music majors. They were all very nice young fellows, like I was 6 months before that. And so the first thing, now the acid's starting to kick in, and I'm getting a real good buzz going. And Tommy says to me, "Hey, Jay, you got any pot?" I said, "Pot? No, I don't, but I have something else." They said, "What do you got?" I said, I got some LSD. "Oh, Jay's got LSD. Why, you want some?" says dummy Jay. Yeah. Okay. So I give each of them a tab of acid. while they're setting up, I'm waiting around. And the first thing I realized that I really screwed up was when the guitar player, Tommy, says to me, Jay, black spaghetti, Jay, black spaghetti." And I what are you talking about, man? He was pointing at his wires coming out of his guitar into the amplifier, and they were curly Q. And so he said, "Black spaghetti." That's where he was at. And then I asked the bass player, who was sitting on a stair of the stage. There's 2 stairs. You get up to the stage. He was sitting on one of the stairs. I said, "Jimmy, what are you doing, man?" He says, "I'm thinking. Don't bother me, man." I said, "Oh, you're thinking? Oh, okay." And I couldn't find the keyboard player. And I finally walked up to where the ballroom was, and here he is wrapped around one of the ice sculptures, telling me how beautiful this is. "Look at this. This is beautiful." And I'm saying, look, Wally, you're all wet, man. Come on. You're gonna electrocute yourself. Come on, man. At which point the Mater D says, "Okay, wedding party's coming in. Play the wedding march." I say, "Okay, come on, boys, ready? The wedding march. Dan 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 forward and dan 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 dan. And so we're playing a wedding march, and in comes about 800 Italians coming by. That's what it felt like. And after about 3 choruses of this, somebody was walking by the stage mouthing the words to "Happy Birthday to You." I never realized in my loaded state that I sang the wrong song to the band. And once she said da 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 da, I did da 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 da. So once you're doing that, you got to keep going. You can't get out of it. Well, we must have done 30 choruses of "Happy Birthday to You," and finally they all got in the back of where the ballroom was, and we finished at the "Happy Birthday to You." And in which case there wasn't a sound, nothing, not a sound coming out of the ballroom, not a sound coming anywhere, except the sound of the guy that hired me for the mafia comes out and he says, "Here's your friggin' check. Now, I don't know what yous are on, but get the hell out of here before I kill you." So, in which case the keyboard player says, Jay, what happened? I said, "Well, I sang the wrong song." "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I sang the instead of the wedding march, I sang Happy Birthday to You." Now he's totally bummed. And he says, whose birthday is it? I says, "Nobody's. Come on. Pack your stuff up and let's get out of here." So that was my one and only time as a wedding band leader. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to
Wow. Well, you're lucky you got out of there.
Yeah. Yes, I am. I certainly am. Yeah, I've been lucky my whole life that way, yeah. But so, yeah, my wife too, Carol. She's on the back of the book. That's the cutie that's on the back of the book. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, we were on the Staten Island ferry going to New York City.
Okay.
Yeah, I was asked to play at the Bayonne Park for their, I don't know, centennial. I don't know what the occasion was really, but they asked me to come back and play. And because I'm from Bayonne originally, I went back and did it, so. And where else could I get some of that great New Jersey pizza?
Right. Hey, you're not going to go wrong. You're not going to go wrong with that. So you had, during this time too, you had been a session drummer. You had played on a lot of records, and you had also played with some people like Brenda Lee.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, a couple of years. Brenda, a year and a half, I think, something like that. Yeah, I did.
Were you? Was it session or was it touring as well?
With Brenda, it was touring as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but with everybody else, I was in the studio, and I had two sets of drums, and so I'd be so busy that I would play a session, and then I had a guy that they would call it, they would cart you drums from one studio to another. So I'd always have a set of drums set up, and so because I would just walk in and play. So sort of like roadies, sort of cartage, they called it back then.
Right. It was interesting listening to just reading the stories, and there are a number of fellows that I've performed with who are a bit older than me. I'm more of a child of my performing time was in the 80s and the 90s in bands, and I still perform music now, but I'm more of an actor. But in those days, the days, the 60s, and a lot of these guys were around in the 70s. Going out and playing a club, and being able to make a living doing that. Those days are almost kind of gone now. I mean, it seems like that. It's a lot different. The one fellow that I perform with, Johnny, was telling me that when they had a band together in the 70s, they actually had, they were able to make livings off of performing in the clubs, doing like what you were doing, performing the whole night. And they even had, they put together something where they even had benefits, and then, and, those days of going, it seems like the amount of money that you walk out was the same in the 60s as it is now. But it's like, you're walking out with, you may have made say if you made $100 a night in the 60s, you're making it now, but $100 went a lot more in the 60s than it went a lot further.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely so. In fact, out here in LA, guys, they join like 4 bands or 5 bands, so they never have an off night.
Right.
But a lot of places charge the bands to play. You have to pay to play. Right. So, you know what I mean? So I can't have anything to do with anything like that, but it's, I'm not playing, I'm retired. I'm not playing anymore anyway, but although I will be doing another CD and,
oh, good.
Yeah, I will. More bluesy. more bluesy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear that. I really enjoyed your last one.
Oh, thank you. I got one track already cut for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to finish. My plan is to finish the book number 2, volume 2,
mm-hmm.
put that out, and then go right into recording. And
I'm looking forward to hearing these stories too. You had some really great stories with Dr. Hook. Would you want to save them for our listeners to buy the book and read them, or did you want to share any of those?
I think I'll leave those to the imagination of the people that want to buy the book. Okay.
You had some doozies, I tell you, folks. There are some doozy stories in here. I was reading the book and I was just like, I almost fell over a couple of times.
Yeah.
Hearing some of these here. And especially, there was some stuff in there that was really amusing and funny. And then there was some stuff in there that was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
I can't wait for volume 2, Jay. I mean, this was an excellent read. And folks, I tell you, if you want to hear, this is just as rock and roll a book as anything else out there, if not more so. Jay has just got excellent stories. I mean, this is rock and roll right here, folks. You definitely got to, check out this book. Jay, now I forgot where I got this. Did I get this on Amazon or did I get this through your website?
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay. You can get, Don't Blame the Music, The Untold Story of Dr. Hook by J. David, the original drummer. Well worth the read, folks. And do you have any kind of a timeline or any time that you think the second volume will be out?
No, I can't give it a timeline because I wouldn't put myself under the pressure of.
Oh, sure.
Of an end date.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to finish it by July 2nd. Otherwise I'm going to commit suicide. I can't do that. Once I get through it, because there's so many stories I got to pick from now.
Mm-hmm.
I always did. I'll tell you one Dr. Hook story that's not in the book.
Okay.
We were driving down LA in the 70s, we're playing at the Troubadour, and the LA Sheriff's Department were badasses. They may still be badasses, although I work with them now in that because I'm sober, I go with my wife and we go and speak with addicts in the women's jail in LA. So we do that once a month. We've been doing that for some years now. And so it's run by the sheriffs. So it's very, very cool arrangement. And but then we were afraid of them. We knew, they were badasses. And so one day the three of us were really loaded in a rent-a-car. And because Ray didn't have, only had one eye, he didn't drive, and Dennis never had a license and he didn't drive. So I drove us around. So we're waiting on some street for something. I don't know what. Oh, no, wait. I was driving down the strip and I got pulled over. So we're pulled over on the side of the on Sunset, and I'm looking in my mirror, and out he comes. He looked about 6'5". He had those death ray sunglasses that those guys wore, and he comes walking up to our rent-a-car, and I roll down the window, and he says, "All right, license and registration." Oh, Officer Fudd. Oh, good. Officer Elmer Fudd. Now we got to try and hold in our laughter. And I couldn't stop. Yes, sir, here it is. So we were lucky to get away that time. And there's some other stories. I mean, we got all sorts of stories. You can't, it's been, looking back on it, I mean, it's been wonderful, tragic, hysterically funny. There's a lot of description for it, but those are the ones that I would give to it. I'm grateful I'm alive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think your description of the book, that's exactly what I would say too, having read it and really enjoyed it. I would say yes. I would say yes to that. And the thing is too is that reading this book, I can remember. I think it was 2.5 years ago or so when I first interviewed you.
Uh-huh.
There were a couple of things that I had assumed just by I was just reading articles about Dr. Hook and the medicine show online, reading some magazine articles and things like that over the years.
Did you become suspicious too?
Well, the thing is that I had asked you a couple of questions, and it turned out that they were absolutely, you were like, no, not at all. They were rumor. And this book confirmed that.
Yeah.
There were a number of things that were written. Again, I'm not going to give it away because I'll give away the book and the parts that we wanted to keep a surprise for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did see in the news, sadly, I know you were bandmates with David Crosby, and we recently lost him. Do you have any thoughts or maybe a story about David Crosby? I know you were planning on writing more about that in your next book.
Sure. First of all, on the front cover of my book is David wrote an inscription, or he wrote, having read it. And I think he did that 3 weeks before he died. And that may very well be the last thing he wrote. It could very well be. The first night that we played, the David Crosby band played, was up in Petaluma, California at an auditorium up there. And everybody loved it. They were just glad to see David out and about and not smoking his pipe. They were glad, and so they loved the band. The band was and is great. And Crosby and I went back to his house in Mill Valley after the show, and he had a bunch of young nubile things that David wants a salad. Okay, they would do anything, whatever David wanted. That's what happened. So one of them decided to make the chocolate that hot chocolate. I guess I don't know what the hell you'd call it, but anyway, fudge. Hello,
hot fudge. Yeah,
yeah, hot fudge. Yeah, the brain's a terrible thing to waste. Hot fudge, and so they bring out a big thing of hot fudge because David loves hot fudge. Well, I'm sitting across the table from him, and I put my hand in the hot fudge and I start painting his face with the fudge. And so everybody goes, oh, thinking that David's not going to like this. Well, he loved it. So then he picks up the fudge, and now we're painting each other's faces, having a nice conversation. So that's how I went home that night, just full of fudge.
Yeah,
full of fudge. Yeah, I got a bunch of stories about the Crows. Let me tell you.
Oh, well, I can't wait. Did you perform with him? But did you go out with like Crosby, Stills, and Nash too, or was it just with David Crosby?
Just with David. Yeah. No, they all had. Stephen had his band. Graham went out with David, but then when they weren't going out, that's when David went out and we went out together. Yeah, that's the way that was. They would get in hellacious arguments and wouldn't talk to each other for a while, and so that's just between them. That didn't have a thing to do with me, but it was a rough time, man. A very rough time. The 80s, rough time.
Yeah.
Rough.
Folks, we've had Jay David and his book, Don't Blame the Music, The Untold Story of Dr. Hook by Jay David, the original drummer. It's available on Amazon. And folks, I got to tell you, again, awesome rock and roll stories in this book here. You're going to love it. You won't be able to put it down. And make sure you get it and check it out. Jay, you have a website, I believe, Jay David Music.
Yes, I do. I'm setting up a new one. But I on Facebook, it's friends who like Jay David's music.
Okay.
So if they want to, if somebody wants to get on that, or just ask me to be friends with them on Facebook, I will do it.
Right.
I'll do it. Yeah, I'm available to people. I'm not.
You
one
are,
of those,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one of those types that's I'm available. I'm a friendly kind of guy.
All right. Great, great, great. Well, thanks again, Jay. And folks, thank you all for listening. You've been listening to Jay David here on Foul Players Radio, and we will see you next time, folks. Take care.
Good night.
Folks, thanks again for tuning in today to listen to our episode with Jay David discussing his book, Don't Blame the Music, The Untold Story of Dr. Hook. Links to where you can get this book are available in our show notes. If you go ahead and look at our website, check the episode out on our website, foulplayersradio.com. And it was also in the show notes on our YouTube channel at Foul Players Radio. We really hope you enjoyed this episode and hope you come out to see a murder mystery sometime with the Foul Players of Perryville. Again, on May the 6th, we will be on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad in Cumberland, Maryland. On May 12th, we will be at Fifth Company Brewing in Perryville, Maryland. We hope you come out and enjoy the shows. Links to where you can get tickets can also be found in the show notes. Please hit the like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Continue to watch us and listen to us on our Foul Players of Perryville or our Foul Players Radio website. And on all these other platforms where you can find Foul Players Radio, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and tell all your friends. Folks, we will be back in another week or so with another episode of Foul Players Radio. Stay tuned. We will see you then.
Hello, my name is Gunhild Carling, and you are listening to Foul Players Radio, and I am interviewed here, so tune in.